What's going on, YouTube? We're back with another video. So I've been getting a lot of questions about how to farm Wyvern 10. Questions on like, because people are having trouble with, getting up there, Wyvern 9 and Wyvern 10. In my opinion, Wyvern is the most important hunt because everything in Wyvern can be used on the majority of heroes. Even if you think a hero should be built on like HP, defense, you can still get a lot of tankiness and speed on a speed set. So, and in my opinion, I think speed is the most important stat in the game. Believe it or not, it's the only stat where you can only get percentage off of the set bonus. So I'm gonna give some tips on how to build a team around farming Wyvern 10, because that should be most people's goals. I know a lot of people want to get their attack sets and defense sets, but people gotta remember that those attack percent sets and defense percent sets are based off of your base stat. So you can get a lot of that within your sub stats. Like this, like people are afraid to use broken sets like this, but this is my Sigret on a broken set. And she, this is who I farm with. This is who I use as my main DPS to farm Wyvern 10. I can't use Lorena because, and I'll get to that when I start farming Wyvern 10 and I show you why I can't use Lorena over Sigret. But when you think about Wyvern 10, you have to think about a few things, okay? The Wyvern's mechanics are, he needs to have 2 debuffs on him. He needs to have 2 debuffs on him at all times, or he's going to attack twice, which means he's going to burst somebody down. And Wyvern 10 does a lot of damage. And then when his bar fills up, his little ultimate bar, he's going to do a tail swipe that debuffs you and cleanses all of his debuffs. And then you have to break the shield before he gets his turn. If he gets his turn but and the shield is still up, he's going to ultimate you, and then that's pretty much death. You can survive, if you got defense buffs and barriers and things like that, but ultimately you're probably gonna die on Wyvern 10. So to do that, I can give you a few tips. If you have this guy right here, you won the game. My Shuri, sometimes he doesn't outspeed Wyvern 10 because you need at least 220 speed to outspeed Wyvern 10. But if you have at least 220 speed on a good Shuri, he's going to go before the Wyvern, and he's going to attack and push everybody's combat readiness by 25% if his S2's maxed up like mine. And then he's going to, then all your slower units will go before the Wyvern so they can land their debuffs. So when you think about Wyvern, you think about, okay, if you don't have Shuri or like a combat readiness pusher at all that goes before the Wyvern, that means all your units, all your debuffers need over 220 speed, which is hard, right? Shuri makes it so, Shuri's like cheating, okay? Shuri's like cheating because he makes it so you don't need insane gear quality for speed to outspeed the Wyvern. He'll just push everybody in front for him, right? So when you think about your team, you got to think about going before the Wyvern, how many debuffs you have, and DPS. A DPS, how much heals you bring, things like that. So this is my team, and I'll explain the roles. So I have Shuri as my combat readiness pusher. Right now, I need more speed on him to consistently go before Wyvern 10. But sometimes he goes before Wyvern 10 with 206, sometimes he doesn't. Speed tuning is weird in this game, but 220, more than 220 plus is what you want for Wyvern 10. I just don't have it yet. But I can still do Wyvern 10, it's just not, sometimes I fail. It's like a 90% win rate. But Shuri goes before the Wyvern, he pushes. Next, my debuffer. So I'm using Sigret as a main DPS. This is my unit who does the most damage to the Wyvern. But she also has debuffs. And like I said, you need 2 debuffs on him at all times. So Lorena only brings DPS. So my team needed more debuffs. So I swapped out Lorena as my main DPS for Sigret. And then my runs got a lot more consistent because Sigret can actually land more debuffs. And I also have Shuri on Song of Stars. I didn't show y'all that. If you have a Song of Stars on Shuri, this gives them a chance to apply target, right? And which, increases the amount of debuffs on the Wyvern. But in my opinion, like I don't do this because, my runs are pretty consistent. But if you don't have 220 speed, you need to put that book on him. What's it called? Like memorandum or something? Yeah, this. Put this on him so he can gain the speed before you get to the Wyvern, so he can outspeed the Wyvern. But if you have 220 plus speed, put Song of Stars on him because it just counts as an extra debuff. So I'm using Sigret, I'm using Shuri as my main DPS. I'm using Assassin Cartuja as my defense break. Defense break, you need this. Defense break is very important for Wyvern 10. I used Cartuja because he's been a defense break I've been using forever since I got him. And he has a bleed on his S1, which is another debuff. So he's a defense breaker with who applies bleed. So he has 2 debuffs, right? And then as my tank, I use Doris. You know, you need a healer, right? Now, I actually would like to use Hazel more than Doris, believe it or not, because I don't have an attack up buff on my team. But, you know, Hazel gives me defense up buff and continuous healing. But if I want to speed up my runs, I would like to incorporate Hazel. But my Hazel isn't built yet. And people always say, you know, Hazel heals based off of attack. When you're in Wyvern 10 and you have a good speed team, you don't need to worry about taking too much damage. That's what people get scared of. They're like, oh, well, I need better heals, or I need like a defense buff and stuff. If you're outspeeding a Wyvern constantly, you have a good Shuri, you're constantly cycling turns, don't worry about taking too much damage. He's only going to attack you once, you know, and then by that time, you know, you'll have heals and happen, and trust me, you're not taking too much damage in a good Wyvern 10 team. So you can use things like Hazel as your tank and things like that. Or, you know, I could throw Big Bear as a tank and use Hazel on the back. You know, things like that. Don't worry about taking too much damage. Only worry about taking too much damage and tankiness when you know you're not going to get as many turns as him, and you know your debuffs aren't going to land that consistently, right? But, yeah, that's how you should think about your Wyvern 10 team. You need debuffs, speed, defense break, DPS, a little bit of heals, and you got that, you good. Oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. Wyvern 10 has 70% resistance. So you need at least, on your debuffers, you need at least 55% effectiveness. 55%. So my Segret has 56. My Assassin Cartuja, Big Bear, he has 57%. You need at least 55%. So this is what you want to aim for with Wyvern 10 in a nutshell. You want a Shuri, and you want your Shuri at 220 speed, right? Tierra could work too. Tierra at 220 speed. She just doesn't push as much combat readiness, and she has lower base speed than Shuri after the nerf, so it's a lot harder. But if you don't have Shuri, you're gonna need 220 speed on all your debuffers. If you can't do that, you have to build your tankiness. So you're gonna have to build a tankier team. It's gonna be slower runs, but it'll work if you don't have the speed. If you don't have the speed quality to go before the Wyvern, you need to work on your tankiness, which, you know, that takes gear quality too. But so this is just for, like, you know, speed teams and things like that. Ultimately outspeeding the Wyvern. But yeah, 55% effectiveness, 220 speed to outspeed the Wyvern. To land your debuffs, 55% effectiveness. To outspeed the Wyvern, 220 speed. This is strictly Wyvern 10. So let's get into it. So, like I said, my Shuri only has 26 speed, so, you know, RNG plays a part. But I'll show you. I'll show you exactly what would happen. So here's Wyvern 10. I'm just gonna autoplay it. Just gonna autoplay. Oh, and I turn your Shuri's turning Shuri skills off are so important, because if you have Song of Stars on Shuri, he can only apply the target debuff with his S1. Also, Shuri actually has a poison on his S1. It's a low chance, but sometimes it procs, you know. So ultimately, S3 doesn't even work on Wyvern because it lowers like combat readiness. So you can't even, you know, using Shuri's S3 on autoplay would just like slow down the run, because, you know, it has a long animation. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't apply any debuffs. So just turn it off, in my opinion. You know, you can do what you want. If you want to see the animation or whatever, you know, they do you. But efficiency wise, I would say just turn the skill 1, or just turn the skill 3 out. Make them use the skill 1.
Please disappear.
So yeah, going through the first stage with this team isn't, you know, it's not that difficult. What is difficult is the RNG when I get to the Wyvern, because like I said, my Shuri, I need a good necklace and a ring to get my Shuri to 220 speed. So I have to, you know, run some more raids and stuff like that. Maybe I'll shop refresh, who knows? But without 220 speed, you never know who's gonna go first. But as long as Shuri goes first, he will push my other units in front of the Wyvern so they can land their debuffs. I don't think we're gonna get so lucky in this video, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'll show you the end.
But I'll explain why Shuri is so. Shuri's like the MVP of the team in Wyvern. He's what makes it so my gear quality doesn't have to be that great, speed wise. So you got to get through this. And you know, for the rest of the week, I'm mostly gonna be farming Wyvern, because, you know, I'm done with like a biz. I'll be doing some raids and stuff, but I'm kind of slowing down on 6-star because I need to get a lot more gear on my team. So Wyvern is gonna be my main focus for the next few days. You know, I'll still keep up with the content on YouTube and stuff. But definitely gonna be farming a lot of Wyvern. But yeah, let's see. This is the part. If Shuri outspeeds, if he had 220 speed, he would probably outspeed every single time. But he didn't outspeed there. See, you see how close he is. So I'm gonna take this double hit. But Shuri's gonna go next and push. No, okay, I got no target on there. Doris is gonna heal. Okay, I'm not landing my debuffs. But you see how Shuri, see, you got a dual attack. Look what happened. Sagret moved again. Sagret's gonna move again. Oh, okay, never mind. Sagret didn't move again. I guess my Sagret needs more speed, but right now I'm taking hits. But in a perfect world, Shuri would have went first. Shuri would have attacked. And then my debuffers would have got their debuffs. You're gonna need a little bit of taking this for situations like this, but if you have good debuffers and you have a good Shuri, now you see all this? You see all this? He's gonna get his ultimate because he attacked twice, so this was a pretty unlucky run. But I have enough tankiness to where if things like this happen, you know, I can still survive. Ready? But in a perfect world, Shuri would have attacked first, my debuffers would have win, and they would have got their debuffs. He would have only attacked once. That means less combat bar. Or less of his ultimate bar would have filled up, and then you know, the less damage he would do, and the less chance of his shield going up means the more damage you're gonna do. I'm gonna break his shield. Ready to fire. I'm pretty sure I have enough DPS for his shield. Yeah, and then all the poison and stuff. But yeah, you see all these debuffs. So the next time it's his turn, he's only gonna attack once, and I'll show you. As long as he has 2 debuffs on him, he's only gonna attack once. So it's his turn. Look, boom, that's it. So if you have good debuffers and a lot of speed cycling, he's not gonna do that much damage to you. And that's how Wyvern 10 works. Wyvern 10 is a gear check between speed and debuffs and you know, your DPS unit, and that's it. That's my Wyvern 10 run in a nutshell. That was actually not a good run, but it worked out. In a good run, Shuri will go first, and then my debuffers would have went and landed at least 2 debuffs, and then the run would have went faster. But that's Wyvern 10 in a nutshell. So, like I said, just keep these things in mind. Speed, 55% effectiveness, good amount of debuffs, good DPS unit, little bit of heals, and an attack buff. You want an attack buff in there. I'm using Miss Doors because I love Miss Doors. Y'all know how I like Doors. But ultimately, you know, I would like to use Hazel. Hazel would be someone I replace for Doors and Wyvern just to speed up the runs. Doors can do this. But if I want to speed up the runs, I want an attack buff, right? So, yeah, just keep those things in mind, and then you're good. If you have a Shuri, congratulations. You know, Shuri's MVP Wyvern, okay? But if you don't have a Shuri, you know, if you can build a really, really good Tieria, it can work too. Because nobody pushes combat readiness like Shuri Tieria. Nobody does it like the way they do. Every time they attack, they're pushing. I know Tieria got nerfed. She has lower base speed. She pushes less combat readiness than Shuri. So you might need better speed gear quality, but you know, ultimately, if you don't have combat readiness pushers, the way that Tieria and Shuri do it, you need a lot more speed, or you need more tankiness. So think about things like that when you're building your team. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. Maybe I'll try to answer some more questions. I get a lot of questions in my YouTube comments, so comment on some questions you guys have, and maybe I'll make a video about it. Like I said, I'm not too big of a guide person because, you know, I don't like YouTube wars and things like that. But I see a lot of this question. I do answer this a lot on my stream, so I thought maybe I'll just make a video on it. But yeah, just keep those things in mind, and then your Wyvern 10 team will be complete, and you'll be farming for the rest of your life. Hey, but yeah, thank you for watching. Oh, Happy New Year's, everybody, by the way. Happy New Year's. I hope everybody have a great New Year's. Hope everybody's motivated for the new 2019. Stay motivated, stay grinding, things like that. So, yeah, until next time, peace.